Lieutenant Cale Morgan stood at the helm of the Aurora's Dawn, watching the pale blue world of Aster Prime drift below him. The colony's surface glowed with the orange fires of burning buildings and scarred craters where enemy lasers had struck. He felt the hum of the ship's engines through the soles of his boots and tasted the metal tang of tension in his mouth. All around him, crew members spoke in hushed, urgent tones as consoles flashed warnings of incoming alien fighters. Outside the viewports, human starfighters streaked toward the alien cruiser Viola, a sleek, dark vessel. It hung in low orbit, like a silent harbinger of doom. Cale recalled the mission briefing. The Thalantari fleet had arrived without warning, seeking control of Aster Prime's mineral-rich moon. Any hope of negotiation had ended when the first orbital cannon blast leveled half of Colony City. Now it was up to Cale and his squadron to stop the invaders. "Sir, enemy fighters on our tail," reported Ensign Lee, her voice steady despite the flashing red alert on her console. Cale nodded and adjusted the ship's shields. His heart pounded, but his face remained calm. He tapped a series of commands, and the Aurora's Dawn swung into formation with 2 escort frigates. They would try to buy time for the civilian evacuation shuttles below. On the bridge of Viola, Captain Shira Thalin observed the human fleet's maneuvers. She was tall and lithe, her midnight blue uniform decorated with the rank insignia of her people. To her, the humans looked like frightened birds scurrying beneath the talons of an eagle. Yet they fought with fierce determination. She admired that spark of courage. Still, her orders were clear: seize the moon's resources by force, then decide whether to offer peace or to crush any further resistance. As the 2 forces closed to firing range, Kyle saw the first volley of green plasma lances streak across the void. He grabbed the comstick. "All fighters engage at will. Protect the colony. Hold the line." His words echoed through the channel, firm and sure. The human ships responded with a burst of white energy beams. The initial exchange lit the darkness like fireworks, sending eruptions of light and debris tumbling into space. Kyle guided his fighter, the Hawk 7, through the swirling debris fields. He chased a Thalantari interceptor that dove toward a transport shuttle, its shields nearly spent. With a steady hand, Cale lined up the target and fired a pulse cannon round. It struck the alien wingtip, causing the ship to spin out of control. He watched it drift away, motionless. Then he scanned the skies for his next adversary. Suddenly, a shrill klaxon warned him of a missile lock. A fiery orb raced toward his cockpit. He pushed the throttle to full power and performed a barrel roll to shake the lock. The missile streaked past, missing by mere meters, then exploded against a nearby asteroid shell. Metal fragments clinked against his canopy. His breath came hard in his helmet, and he swallowed to calm himself. This was only the beginning. Back on the Viola, Shira watched Cale's skillful maneuvers through her tactical feed. He moved like a dancer amid chaos. She felt a strange pulse of respect, an emotion she had long buried beneath the weight of duty. Still, the battle demanded her attention. She activated the full battery of the cruiser's forward guns. A massive beam of violet energy slammed into the atmosphere, carving a trench through the clouds. "Shields holding at 50%, came a report from Cale's wingman. Cale frowned. The Aurora's Dawn would not survive much more punishment. He keyed his comm. "Commander Thalin, this is Lieutenant Morgan. You are disrupting civilian evacuations. I order you to stand down and negotiate terms." A tense silence followed. Then a calm, clear voice answered, "Lieutenant Morgan, this is Captain Shira Thalin of the Viola. I will not stand down until my orders are complete. Yet I offer you this. Meet me in orbit, unarmed, and we may speak." There was a slight edge to her tone. A challenge, but also a hint of something undefinable. Cale's jaw tightened. He scanned the battered fighters around him. Some were limping home. Others were holding their ground. He had to choose. Press the attack and risk total loss, or trust an enemy's word. He squared his shoulders and responded, "Understood. I will be there." As his squadron formed a cautious escort, Kyle found himself both alarmed and curious. The battle was far from over, But for a moment, human and Thalantari leaders spoke as equals. In the wide silence of space, their voices carried more weight than any weapon. And somewhere beneath the roar of combat, a fragile thread of possibility took shape. Lieutenant Kyle Morgan felt the weight of every loss as he guided the Hawk 7 through a field of drifting wreckage. One by one, human fighters fell to Thalantari plasma strikes. His squadron was down to half strength. Below, the colonists' evacuation shuttles rose like silver birds, weaving through the flashes of enemy fire. Kale knew that if the Vila destroyed the convoys, no help could reach Aster Prime, and innocent lives would be lost. On the bridge of the flagship Aurora's Dawn, alarms rang out. "Communications boys are offline, sir," cried Ensign Lee. She worked the controls to re-establish a link, but every attempt fizzled. Kale's heart pounded. "All ships, fall back to protect the shuttles," he ordered. "We'll regroup near the debris field." Shira Thalen watched the human fleet's maneuvers with cold precision. Her slender fingers danced over the hollow controls of the Vila Cora. "Bring us closer to the drop zone," she commanded. "Disable their relays." A volley of violet beams shot from the cruiser's underbelly, striking the floating buoys. Sparks flew, and the faint glow of the markers winked out. Suddenly, Kale's targeting screen flickered. Without the buoys, he lost orientation. His vessel spun in zero gravity until he wrestled the controls back under command. He glanced at the distant form of the Vila Cora, its warship silhouette frigid and fearless. "They're cutting us off," he muttered. From his rear-view sensors, Kale spotted a sleek Thalantari interceptor streaking toward the evacuation corridor. The pilot aimed to finish the job, unaware that friendly shuttles still crawled through the route. "Not today," Kyle said. He banked hard and surged ahead, meeting the interceptor head-on. The two fighters danced a deadly ballet. Plasma bolts flared, narrowly missing each hull. Kyle rolled over the alien craft, then under it, exposing its unshielded flank. He fired a pulse laser salvo. The interceptor shuddered, then spiraled away, crippled. A cheer bubbled up in Kyle's comm channel as his wingman, Petty Officer Ramos, gave a quick salute emoji. Yet victory felt hollow. More Thalantari ships swarmed in. Kyle's squadron burned through its ammunition reserves. He radioed, "Auroras, Dawn, this is Morgan. We need reinforcements or we'll be overrun." His voice was steady, but inside he felt the buzz of desperation. In response, Shira ordered a new tactic. "Deploy boarding pods," she said, her tone measured. "I want the human command structure broken." On the Vila Cora's hangar deck, armored pods sealed and launched. Each dart carried a single Thalantari warrior, trained in both combat and negotiation. Below them, near a shattered communications tower atop a moon crater, Kyle and two others scrambled to set up a mobile relay. One of his men, Lieutenant Perez, fought back tears as he strung cables through blown-out conduits. Kyle offered a firm hand on his shoulder. "Stay with me, Perez. We get this running and we keep talking to HQ." A sudden whoomp shook the ground. Kale and Perez hit the dirt as a pod impacted nearby, sending rock and dust into the cold air. The pod hatch yawned open and a quiet figure stepped out, tall, armored, and holding a sidearm. Kale's pulse leapt. He reached for his weapon, but the figure raised a hand. "Lieutenant Morgan?" Her voice was firm but not aggressive. In the dim light, he recognized the emblem on her pauldron, the personal mark of Captain Shira Thalen. "Captain Thalen," Kyle said, voice low. "To what do I owe the visit?" He kept his weapon trained, though his fingers trembled. Shira's eyes flicked to Perez, who was backing away with his rifle. She waved him off with a nod. Perez retreated to cover. The captain took a careful step forward, her boots crunching on fractured rock. "Your communications are cut. No help is coming." She paused, letting her words sink in. "And your colony faces ruin unless you stop this battle." Kyle straightened. "Then why are you here? To kill me yourself?" He kept his gaze leveled. Shira tilted her head. "I could, but I have other orders." She glanced at the broken tower. "I offer you a choice." She lowered her weapon enough that Kale could see her face clearly, lit by the glow of emergency lights. "Help me evacuate your people. I guarantee safe passage off-world. Then we can discuss peace." He felt surprise ripple through him. The captain of the enemy warship, offering to protect his people? He looked at Perez, whose face was pale. The lieutenant swallowed and nodded. Kyle raised his hand slightly. "We'll help," he said. Shira gave a small, almost shy smile. "Good. Then move your people to the landing zone, I'll show you." She turned, signaling with her comm badge. A nearby wrecked shuttle gleamed as its engines flared to life. "Follow me." As they set off, Kale found himself walking beside his greatest foe, yet no longer feeling the old hatred. Instead, he felt a curious bond, their footsteps echoing on the battered ground. Behind them, the mobile relay crackled back to life, sending Kale's grateful signal to the Auroras. Dawn. Overhead, human and Thalantari ships paused their duel. In that tense silence, Kale realized that trust had taken root in the heart of battle. And though the war still raged around them, the two leaders now shared a fragile hope that even in darkness, cooperation might light the way. Lieutenant Kale Morgan led Captain Shira Thalen across the dusty surface of the crater's floor. The makeshift landing zone lay ahead, lit by the glow of emergency beacons on both human and Thalantari shuttles. Around them, weary soldiers and civilians, human and alien, moved in cautious peace, guided by joint squads that Kyle and Shira had organized. The roaring of combat overhead had quieted, replaced by the low hum of engines and the murmur of anxious voices. Shira glanced at Kale as they walked. The human officer's uniform was torn and smudged with dust, but his posture remained proud. She remembered how he had faced her at the broken communications tower without flinching. He was not the cowardly creature the war brief had described. "Your people fight bravely," she said, her voice soft in the dim light. Kyle offered a tired smile. "They fight to protect their homes," he replied, "and to protect each other." He gestured toward a cluster of children boarding a shuttle under the watchful eye of a Thalantari sergeant. "Look at them. They just want safety." Shira nodded. "On my world, we have sacred forests by the sea. We believe water is life. My people would have died to save those shores." She paused, remembering the gentle tides she had known as a child. "I see the same love here." They reached a long, low shuttle emblazoned with both human and Thalantari symbols. Engineers worked to repair its damaged landing gear. Kale tapped his comm. "Lieutenant Perez, status?" Perez's voice crackled back. "We're almost done, sir. Give us 2 minutes." Shira's brow furrowed. 2 minutes. She turned to Kale. "In 2 minutes, the next wave of enemy ships will be here." Kale's chest tightened. Any longer and they risked a new attack. "Then we leave now," he said, stepping forward. "Load the civilians first, then we'll shuttle the wounded." Together, they helped shepherd the last of the families onto the craft. A trembling mother clutched her child's hand. A group of elders knelt in prayer. Kyle and Shira stood guard, side by side, as the shuttle's hatch closed. Just as the engines began to spin, a flash of light streaked across the sky. Kyle looked up. "Incoming fighters," he warned. They ignored the truce. Shira cursed under her breath. She raised her comm badge. "All defensive batteries, engage any attackers," she ordered. Across the crater, human and Thalantari crews activated hidden turrets. Beams of white and violet energy cut through the darkness, meeting the new enemy force head-on. Kale watched as 2 squadrons of Thalantari fighters dove toward them. He sprinted to the edge of the landing pad and drew his sidearm. As one ship barreled in, he fired a precision shot at its cockpit panel. The fighter veered off, sparks trailing in its wake. Shira worked the comm lines, coordinating fire between the mixed crews. She barked clear, firm commands. "Hold them at the ridge. Keep the shuttles safe." Even under attack, her tone carried calm authority. Slowly, the attackers began to break off, unable to push past the combined defense. Kyle felt adrenaline surge as he and Shira covered each other. When the last interceptor fled, silence returned, broken only by the drone of the shuttle's engines. It lifted, carrying the first of the refugees to safety. Kyle exhaled, dropping to one knee. His uniform sleeve was singed, and he felt a sting in his shoulder. Glancing down, he saw a smudge of blood. He pressed a hand to the wound. Nothing serious, he lied, but the sharp ache told him otherwise. Shira knelt beside him, concern in her pale eyes. "Lieutenant, you're hurt." She ripped a strip of her sash and wrapped it around his arm. Her hands were gentle as she tied the cloth. Kyle winced. "Thank you," he said, looking at her. "That could have been worse." She met his gaze. "We learned from each other today, Kyle Morgan. You taught me that compassion is not weakness, and I taught you that mercy can be strength." Her voice held something like pride. He managed a small smile. "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad it was you at my side." Shira straightened. "Then let us finish this work. More shuttles are waiting. No matter the cost, we bring every soul home." Kale nodded, rising to his feet despite the pain. His eyes reflected both weariness and resolve. Together, as they ran toward the next shuttle side by side, the battered crater behind them bore silent witness to their fragile alliance. In the heart of battle, a new bond had been forged, one built on respect, shared sacrifice, and the hope that peace could grow from the ashes of war. Deep beneath the Mao crater's floor, the old outpost lay half buried in rock and dust. Lieutenant Kale Morgan and Captain Shira Thalin stood at its broken entrance, flashlights in hand. The door had long since rusted, and they forced it open with a pry bar. Inside, the air was stale and cold, filled with the echo of their footsteps. Shira's eyes widened as she saw the walls covered in strange glyphs. Lines and symbols ran from floor to high ceilings. "These markings," she whispered, "they match the ones on my homeworld's oldest ruins." Kyle knelt to brush dust off a panel. The glyphs glowed faintly as his fingers passed over them. He shone his light on a circular symbol at the center. "This looks like a warning," Kyle said, "but I can't read it." Shira drew close, studying the pattern. "It speaks of a celestial catalyst," she said, "an ancient device that can change the fate of worlds." Her voice trembled with awe. They moved deeper into the outpost's bowels. The air grew warmer and the walls tighter. After winding through narrow halls, they found a sealed chamber. Its door was covered in more glyphs and held shut by a heavy locking bar. Shira pressed her hand against the symbols. The glyphs glowed brighter, and the lock clicked open. Inside lay a round pedestal, carved from black stone. Atop it sat a small crystal orb, half buried in sand. Gold veins ran through the stone around it, pulsing like a slow heartbeat. Kale stepped forward, heart pounding. "This must be the catalyst," he said softly. The air around it felt alive. Shira traced her finger along the gold veins. "According to the glyphs, this orb can amplify energy on a massive scale," she explained. "It can power or destroy entire planets." She looked at Kale, worry in her pale eyes. "If unleashed, neither our people would survive." Kale swallowed hard. He felt the weight of that truth press down on him. "Then we must stop it," he said firmly. He reached for the orb, but stopped as Shira held out her hand. "Wait." She pulled a data pad from her uniform pocket and tapped at it. Light from the pad fell across her face. "I have half the translation," she said, "but I need your help with the rest." Together, they worked side by side. Kyle read his ship's logs on his comlink and compared them to Shira's datapad. They shared theories aloud. "Maybe the red glyph means danger," Kale said, "and the blue one means shield or stop." Shira nodded, tracing symbols. As they pieced together the text, their shoulders brushed. A warm spark flared between them. After long minutes of tense work, Shira spoke. "It says that the catalyst must be deactivated at its source," she said. "We need to override the power flow at the control cradle." She pointed to a panel beside the pedestal. Kyle joined her, pressing his hands on matching symbols. Both glyph strips glowed green. The control cradle slid open, revealing a panel of glowing runes. Kale found a small lever, covered in dust. "This must be it," he said. He glanced at Shira, whose hand hovered over the lever's base. Their eyes met in the dim light. Kale took a deep breath. "After you," he offered, stepping back. Shira steadied her breath, then pulled the lever down. A deep hum filled the chamber. Light from the orb faded and the gold veins dimmed. The crystal orb stilled as if going to sleep. Dust rained from the ceiling as energy poured out and died. Kale exhaled in relief. "You did it," he said, voice echoing. Shira smiled faintly. "We did it," she corrected. She wiped sweat from her brow. Together they stepped closer to the pedestal, peering down at the darkened orb. In the silence that followed, Kale felt Shira's hand slip into his. He drew her palm to his chest, feeling her warmth. Their eyes met in that quiet tomb, and something passed between them, trust, respect, and something more. A faint glow returned to the orb, not of power but of gentle promise. Shira let go of the lever and straightened. "We should leave," she said softly. "Our allies will wonder where we are." Kyle nodded, brushing dust from his uniform. He looked back at the orb once more, then at Shira. "Thank you," he said, "for saving us all, and for trusting me." She offered a shy smile. "And thank you, Kale Morgan, for teaching me that sometimes mercy is the greatest strength." They turned toward the exit, hands still close. As they walked back through the darkened halls, the echo of their steps mixed with a new, hopeful beat, the first spark of a bond that might one day unite two worlds. Kale Morgan and Shira Thalen climbed into a small stolen shuttle beneath the smoldering hull of the Vilacora. Their clothes were dirty, and fatigue weighed on their shoulders, but their eyes shone with unspoken relief. Behind them lay the disabled celestial catalyst and the ruined outpost that had hidden it for centuries. Ahead lay uncertainty, for neither humans nor Thalantari would soon forget their actions below the surface. As they settled into the cramped cabin, Kale keyed his comm to reach the Aurora's dawn. His voice held hope. "This is Lieutenant Morgan. We have the catalyst under control. Request pickup coordinates." Static answered him. Then a curt reply echoed through the speaker. "Lieutenant Morgan, you are under arrest for unauthorized communication with the enemy. Return to base immediately." Kyle's heart hammered. He looked at Shira. "They think I betrayed them." Shira's face hardened. She tapped her own comm. The screen lit up with her second-in-command's stern visage. "Commander." Veshk frowned, lips tight. "Captain Thalen, report to the bridge. You are relieved of command pending investigation." A chill passed through Shira. Veshk's loyalty to the Thalantari High Council was unshakable. She realized then that her reputation, built on honor and duty, could vanish in an instant. Kyle swallowed the bitter taste of betrayal. "They'll try to destroy us both," he said. "They don't want peace, they only want control." Shira nodded, pain in her eyes. The hum of the shuttle's engines was their only reply. Outside, distant flashes hinted at renewed skirmishes among patrol, ships seeking traders on both sides. Time ran out. With a swift turn, Shira deactivated the comlink. "They cannot hunt us here," she said softly. She unlatched the hatch and peered out. No Thalantari or human vessel hovered above. There, she pointed, a distant moon, hung low on the horizon, its surface marked by blue-green seas, echoes of her home world. "We fly there." Kyle studied the small thruster controls. He keyed in the trajectory. "Our fuel is low," he warned, adjusting their course. "But if we make it, we can find shelter on the moon's far side." He glanced back at Shira. "Are you sure?" Shira folded her arms. "I would rather risk the unknown than be branded a traitor for doing what is right." Her voice trembled, yet it held steely resolve. Kyle felt a surge of admiration. He reached out and took her hand. The generator's low hum was a soft backdrop to this tender moment. Suddenly, alarms blared as the shuttle's scanners lit up. A squad of sleek fighters closed in, their markings unfamiliar, neither human nor Thalantari. Kale's breath caught. Pirates? He guessed. Shira shook her head. They are agents of the High Council. They reached this system ahead of us. Her hand tightened on his. We have no time. Kale hit the manual override. The shuttle shuddered as he guided it below the moon's horizon, skimming layers of ionized gas. Outside, glowing clouds blurred. Within moments, enemies lost their lock. The cabin lights steadied, and the cockpit fell silent once more. They exhaled in unison. Shira pulled her mask off and turned to Kale. Her pale eyes glistened. Kale Morgan, she began, voice soft. You are my enemy, but I want to marry you, human. Kale's breath froze. He stared at her, stunned by those simple words. He remembered her strength in battle, her steady hand on the lever of the catalyst, and the compassion she showed to his people. He realized how she had risked everything for peace, and for him. He swallowed hard. Shira, he whispered. I never thought I would hear those words from my enemy. He reached across the console and brushed a stray lock of hair from her brow. But I want to marry you too. A gentle smile bloomed on her lips. She leaned forward, and for a single, suspended moment, they shared a quiet promise amid the stars. Outside the viewport, the alien moon's surface glowed softly, as if blessing their newfound bond. In the hush, the stolen shuttle glided toward Sanctuary. Behind them, war raged on two fronts. Ahead they carried hope. Hope that unity, born of betrayal and revelation, could heal a galaxy torn by conflict. The stolen shuttle pierced the inky veil of the dark nebula, its hull rattling against invisible currents of charged gas. Lieutenant Kale Morgan gripped the controls, eyes fixed on the dim display markers. Captain Shira Thalen sat beside him, monitoring the energy readings for the still-dormant celestial catalyst they had managed to deactivate once before. Now they must reach the site again to secure it fully, or face the doom it promised. Cloud turbulence ahead, Kale warned as the shuttle rocked. He toggled the thrusters, guiding them through jagged wisps of violet mist. Lightning-like, discharges danced across the nebula's fog, illuminating jagged ice asteroids drifting nearby. Each spark felt like a warning. One misstep and they would be lost forever. Shira leaned forward, reading the holographic map. The catalyst site is 3 minutes away, she said. Her voice was calm, but in her eyes flickered a fierce determination. We must stay on course. If we lose this chance, both our worlds will pay the price. Kyle nodded, swallowing back his rising fear. He slid the shuttle around a massive ice shard that loomed like a frozen spear. Behind them, a flashing red icon suddenly appeared on the radar. Enemy interceptors, he shouted. True to his words, 3 sleek fighters emerged from the nebula's edge, their engines glowing a harsh white. They bore the insignia of the Thalantari High Council, Templars sent to recapture Shira for her betrayal. At the same time, 2 human gunships closed in from above, ordered to eliminate Kale for his treasonous act of aiding the enemy. Shira's hand found Kale's on the console. Trust me, she whispered. With a swift motion, he activated the shuttle's experimental stealth drive, an untested system stolen from the catalyst outpost. The shuttle's outline blurred and dimmed, slipping toward invisibility. Kyle held his breath as the radar sweeps passed over them without a click. We're ghosting, he muttered, voice tense with relief. But we can't stay hidden forever. She nodded. Once we reach the site, we will need every second. Ahead, through the rolling haze, the ruins of the ancient outpost materialized. Jagged towers of black stone rose from a vast plain of crystalline sand, and at its heart stood the dark pedestal where the catalyst orb once lay. Static hums pulsed softly, hints of residual energy. Kyle cut the shuttle's engines to a whisper. He guided them to a cracked landing pad beside the central structure. They touched down smoothly, echoing against the silent stones. Outside, colored, Lights bathed the walls in soft gold. They climbed out, backs braced against the draft of the nebula's wind. Shira pulled a small toolkit from her belt. "We need to install these energy suppressors around the pedestal," she said, handing him a cylindrical device. "They will drain any power the orb tries to build." He took one and smiled wryly. "Just like setting up a campfire guard." Shira returned his smile. "Exactly." Together, they sprinted across the crystalline plain, moving past shattered tanks and rusted machinery. Every step crunched underfoot. The Templars and gunships might still be hunting them. Kyle felt his pulse thud in his ears. They reached the pedestal. Above it, the crystal orb hung in a half-suspended field of energy. It pulsed faintly as if sensing their presence. Shira set down the first suppressor and began attaching it to the pedestal's base. Kale did the same on the opposite side. The moment he clicked his device in place, the orb's pulse stuttered. A soft vibration ran through the ground. Shira looked up at him, hope shining in her eyes. "One more," she said, dashed toward the final position. Suddenly the ground trembled as distant engines roared. Kale spun, seeing human gunships breaking through the nebula's edge, lasers already arcing toward the outpost walls. At the same time, Templar fighters dove in from above. Shira froze, mid-stride. Kale grabbed her arm. "We need to finish," he shouted. She nodded, voice firm. "Cover me." Kale raised his pulse rifle, firing into the sky. His shots lit up the fog, buying Shira precious seconds. She worked swiftly, plugging the last suppressor onto a glyph-inscribed panel. As she flipped the switch, a wave of pale light raced over the orb. It dimmed, its hum fading to nothing. "All done," Shira yelled. Kale lowered his rifle. The gunships halted their attack as the orb's energy field collapsed. The Templars, seeing their prize diffused, backed off. In the sudden silence, only the crackle of nebula winds remained. They exhaled together, relief washing over them. Shira slid beside Kale, and they watched the orb's last glow fade into the stone. He turned to her, voice soft. "We did it." She reached out, brushing a smudge of nebula dust from his cheek. "Together," she said. Far above, the warships retreated into the mist. Below, Kyle and Shira stood amidst the ancient stones, two figures united by courage and hope. In that quiet moment, the darkness of the nebula held no fear, only the promise that, when enemies become allies, even the greatest threats can be overcome. Lieutenant Cale Morgan and Captain Shira Thalen stood on the bridge of the Aurora's Dawn, side by side. All around them, human and Thalantari crew members exchanged cautious nods. The warships of both fleets had halted their engines, hovering in silent formation above Aster Prime's battered surface. On every monitor, images of the deactivated catalyst played in a loop, proof that the device could be sealed, not unleashed. Below in Colony City, refugees gathered on the landing pads watching the show of unity above. Children leaned against their parents, eyes wide with wonder. Veterans who had lost friends in battle wiped away tears. Even hardened soldiers found themselves hopeful at the sight of two proud commanders standing together. Kyle felt a swell of pride in his chest. "Message incoming from Admiral Hawthorne," Kale announced. He tapped the comm panel. The Admiral's face appeared, stern yet curious. "Lieutenant Morgan, Captain Thalen," the Admiral began, "your actions have saved this colony. You have my respect, and that of the High Council." He paused. "We request a joint meeting at once to negotiate a lasting peace." Shira straightened, her blue eyes bright. "Admiral, we accept. There is much to discuss." She pressed a button, and the view shifted to the Thalantari flagship's bridge. Commander Veshk stood there, arms folded, his face unreadable. Then he bowed his head in deference. Kyle caught Shira's eye and saw relief soften her features. Moments later, two small shuttles touched down on a neutral landing platform between the two fleets. Kale and Shira stepped out, shaking hands with human officers and alien diplomats. A hush fell as everyone took their places around a long table, etched with both human and Thalantari symbols. Admiral Hawthorne spoke first. "We meet not as victors and vanquished, but as two peoples at a crossroads." He gestured toward Shira. "Captain Thalen risked her life to save ours," the audience murmured. Then he turned to Kale. "And Lieutenant Morgan showed mercy when it was easier to fire." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Shira rose, her uniform crisp despite the day's trials. "We have seen each other's hearts," she said. "We have shared loss and hope. Now let us build trust, not weapons. Let us share knowledge, not fire." She laid out a plan for joint research into the catalyst's origins and for cooperative mining of Aster Prime's moon. So no side would control all its wealth. Kale stood as well. His voice was steady. "We must remember why we fight, to protect our people, our homes, our futures. Today we protect them best by working together. Let this meeting mark the end of war between our worlds." He paused, looking at Shira. "And the beginning of something better." Applause rose from both sides. Soldiers and diplomats alike clapped, some wiping tears. Above them, the fleets powered up their engines, not for battle but for departure. The human and Thalantari ships formed one moving line, heading out together on patrol, ensuring security side by side. That evening, beneath twin moons that rose over Aster Prime's horizon, Kale and Shira stood on a dais before their assembled peoples. A simple arch stood behind them, entwined with flowers from both worlds. Shira wore a pale blue dress reminiscent of her home's shorelines. Kyle wore his dress uniform, ribbons of honor on his chest. Shira spoke first, her voice clear in the still night air. "Lieutenant Morgan, you came to me as an enemy, yet through courage and compassion, you became my partner, my friend, and now my promise." She reached for his hand. Then Kale smiled and said, "Captain Thalen, you faced me in battle, yet you chose mercy. You gave me hope. Today I give you my heart." Under the witness of two fleets, they exchanged simple rings, one forged from Aster Prime steel, the other from a Thalantari crystal. As they slipped the bands onto each other's fingers, the crowd cheered and the twin moons shone brighter, as if blessing this union. The next morning, Kale and Shira boarded the first joint exploration vessel. Their hands rested easily together on the rail. Before them lay uncharted star systems, untold futures. They exchanged a quiet smile. In their eyes shone the promise that even in the darkest times, unity could light a path forward. Peace born from battle, love born from enmity, and a new dawn for two worlds.